Hello.
Good morning.
All right. Look
Ready
at
to have some fun?
the camera right.
Look at that. It's going to be a good day. We're on the right film sport.
Got my cheat sheet down here. Oh, all right. We are super excited for Serger Month. Lisa and I have been having a lot of fun with this, haven't we?
We have, and I'm very excited to put my pieces together.
Yes.
It's been hard not to.
I know, right? The struggle is real.
It's been,
All right. Yeah. Good morning. Good morning.
Impatiently waiting.
It's tough. It's tough. So here we are. We will be sewing through our some of all of the
All of the
steps.
different pieces and techniques
Yep.
to build this adorable pillow front.
Right.
And talking about the threading steps and how easy it is to go from one piece to the other. So we are sitting in front of and next to
Yes.
a couple different sergers so that we can show you these different steps. So
Yeah, and we picked these two particular machines partially because the foot lever is on the same side on both of these, which is on the right. Instead of behind, some of the machines
Right.
have them in a slightly different position.
So depending on what your, if you always reach over consistently, it's less
Yep.
apt to look stupid.
So I already tried to use the knee lift on this machine this morning. It's not there.
It is not.
However, you wouldn't be able to use it over here either.
On this one either. It's available, but not where it's sitting.
Yeah,
so
I think it's funny that my leg still just, when I sit down at the
automatically
machine, it still
starts
goes.
shaking down there.
It's looking for it.
It's doing its little looky-loo down there.
Yeah. So it's a National Serger Month.
It is.
And
It is.
it's not just a Babylock thing, but it is National Serger Month. So everybody's brands are I think celebrating Sergers this month and all of the different things that you can do. We have created this really fun sampler. Lisa and I sort of scrambled to put this together, but it's been a lot of fun. And I think sometimes that's where like the best ideas come from, right?
When you're forced to do it.
When you're forced to do it. Yeah, we've been lucky having some sampler type project in previous years essentially handed to us, and then we just kind of tweaked it.
I think the only thing that we didn't really do that we normally somehow work in is like the binding tool.
Yeah.
And you still could put some make some and sew them down if you really. We just aren't going to do that. But
yeah, we had so much of that last year.
We really did.
In the
casserole
carrier, and the year before with the drawstring bag. Yeah.
So lots of that.
I got my hair caught in my microphone.
Oh,
here we go.
That must feel nice.
Like, what is that talking?
I can only move my
the
head
rest
this
of
far.
the rest of my watch band going.
Missing one of those.
I am. Yeah, it's a little
loose.
Oh, it's really loose. Yeah, it's definitely all. It keeps telling me to unlock it. So,
it thinks you're trying to open it.
Yeah, fun times. So, today, should we put some of the Serger specials up to talk about them, and then we can get going into that?
So again, I'm sitting right behind the Triumph, which is the big guy, and we've got the Acclaim sitting next to Sarah, and then there's a bunch of other ones.
Yeah.
So
we did a lot of specials this year, and we were super excited that we have some really great pricing. This bundle is essentially $1,000 less than I think where we were.
Well, really, what it should be,
right? And where we were last year. So. Yes. We've been able to do some really great bundles. Lisa's going to be stitching, as she said, on the Triumph. We both own a version of the Triumph. I have the Triumph, and you have an Ovation.
I have an Ovation.
Yep. As we are stitching today, she can talk about the things that are a little bit different between the Ovation and this. Not a ton of things. They basically still sit on the same.
They sit on the same frame. There's just a few bells and whistles that were added.
Yeah. And the cover hem needle thing, which we'll kind of zoom in on later. And if you do have an Ovation at home, that is a part that we can swap out for you. Yeah.
And wow, is it?
It does make a big difference.
It is definitely an easier thread path to deal with.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that it was it was
that big of a
hard,
deal. Right,
quote,
right.
unquote, before, but
Yeah,
man, is it easier now.
yeah, for sure.
So, absolutely,
So our bundles this year are including a foot kit, and on the Triumph, it's really a big package. So we're talking a lot about the love of sewing, the that add-on, the foot book guide, which is like a manual written for all of the feet that
yep.
you can get, which is really great. And then the inspiration guide when we have them available for most of the machines. So this Triumph bundle is just 55.96.31. We're probably going to get in a lot of trouble for just blurting that right out there. Um,
Shh.
don't tell on us. And then these are the feet that come in that
So there's only a
29
couple.
foot kit. Yeah, it's a ton.
It's like all of them but one.
Yeah, yeah, 1 or 2 feet, are not included in there because they have come out, since then, and, like, the feet on the left side, those are they will all set you back a little bit of money, but they're not, like, the super expensive versions. The ones on the right, are mostly the attachments, and the attachments are, they're
They're bigger,
bigger, and
made out of more metal.
yeah, they definitely are more expensive than the other, things. And yes, so some of you are starting to pop in with some questions. Please do, and we will answer them, when they come in or when we get to that
When
point.
we have a point
Um,
that we can.
so Sherry is asking, she has a 22-foot kit. Do you know what the difference is? Yes. You probably do not have the binder feet. Those were added, and there is an accessory
There's a
kit.
7-foot add-on that
Yep,
you can, so you have the
probably the
Ovation
ovation kit.
foot kit,
Mhm.
and so that is the difference, and there is that nice add-on piece that isn't available. Um, we'll have to look that up.
Yeah,
I don't have that number in my head, but,
but yep, that's the difference there. So this is the big foot kit for the Triumph, and then um, we have a little snippet here about the love of sewing. So a lot of times we don't really push love of sewing. It is kind of a big deal, but we have such great service here, and we stand behind the machines, and we know they don't break. But Sergers are slightly different, and we kind of use them in different ways, and they definitely get dirtier quicker.
right. With that cutting of the fabric, there's fuzz. There's lots
Yes,
of fuzz, no matter what kind of fabric you're using. It
exactly.
it gets dirty, immediately.
Right.
So you really need to,
You probably will feel like you need to service it more
yep,
often. And if you're coming from a different brand or that other brand has told you, oh, the loopers, because of those tubes, it's super expensive. If you break them, it's very, very costly. It really is not. But the good thing about this love of sewing is that if all of this stuff is going to be included because Love of Sewing is kind of like a warranty that covers your routine cleaning and then a lot of the pieces and parts if you have trouble with it, especially as you're learning. So if that's one of those things that's kind of weighing on the back of your
yep,
mind, you can know that you can get that, and you're getting a really great deal with this bundle because these are basically that extended warranty is like $1,800 sold separately.
right.
So it's coming with this package. And then if even if you never take advantage of because you never break your machine and you only have it serviced a couple of times while you have that, you do get access to all of those
Videos,
videos.
and that video vault is a huge benefit. We give lifetime lessons on these machines,
Mhm,
but we are only here, during quote unquote business hours, and we're closed on Sundays. So, and when do you guys normally sew? Um, After business hours and
mhm,
on weekends, right? Because you guys work or you
mhm.
have things that you do during the day. So, if you have a question and we're not here, where can you go to get that answered? Sometimes, if you need it answered right away, because you can't wait till the next day
Mhm.
to get it. So there very well may be a video answering that exact question
Yep,
because it is a huge and massive vault of answers
exactly.
and inspiration.
And inspiration. And the difference between watching a video on the SewEd website versus watching it on Facebook and YouTube, there are no commercials.
There are no commercials, and they are made by actually educated people it's
They're
made
baby locked.
specific.
Yes.
They're Babylock people versus, and I mean no disrespect, but you don't necessarily know the person that's on YouTube or Facebook.
They could be giving you
They
wrong
could be
information.
giving you wrong information, and that they're just a crafter at home
Mhm.
and super excited, and look what I figured out how to do.
Yep,
And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good way to do it
yep,
just because they, hijacked
exactly.
something. So, anything that's on that needs to be a quality video and,
Mhm.
safe to do.
Yeah.
So,
So, all of our bundles this year, if you purchase the bundle, so the Triumph comes with it, but everything else, there's like a bundle package. Love of Sewing is included in our bundles this year. So, um, then we have the Accolade. So the Accolade price went down. So the machine by itself is now $34.99. So this is a nationally advertised price. So you're probably going to see this
yep,
all over the
anywhere.
place.
Yep,
And that should come with the standard inspirational guide.
yep,
And then we also have an add-on bundle. So if you wanted to purchase the bundle and get the foot inspiration guide, you would get a 16-foot kit with the Accolade and the Love of Sewing membership. The machine plus your bundle is 45.72.80, which is really the price of the machine, the price that it was
was before
before. So you're
everything dropped.
basically
So you're
getting
getting all of
all
those
those
things
things.
for the price that it was a month ago.
Yes, absolutely. And these are the feet that are in the 16-foot kit. So not quite as many that are in the Triumph, but you still are getting a good selection of hemmer feet and binders and belt loop attachments. So that's really fun. And they all come with our favorite cording foot, which
Mhm.
is the one that we're going to be using for piping, and the pin tucking foot, which we're also going to be
We're
using
gonna be
today,
using that too.
which are lots of fun. The Accolade is a really great machine. It's a little bit smaller, so um, wouldn't you say, like, if you're looking around at some of the stuff that we're doing today and you're like, yeah, that's just too artsy crafty for me and my serger, the Accolade gives you all of these same stitches, but it's more utilitarian because you don't have
Yep,
quite as
you
much
don't have
space.
that extra 5, inches in that throat space, but it does stitches
Mhm.
that the Triumph does.
Yep.
So, for me personally, that's the size machine I started on.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to do all of the stitches, but I was like, I don't need,
Yes.
that extra oomph, if
Yeah.
you will. So
Extra,
that's where
extra.
I started in, it wasn't long. So I was like, okay, now I had a project that I wanted to do that I needed that
Yeah.
space. So I traded it in and went up. So it's also great trade value
Yeah.
because these machines do hold, their value. It
Mhm.
is definitely a great uh, option
Yeah.
to get in wherever you want to get in at, and then
Absolutely.
move up whenever you're ready. But the ability to stitch anywhere on fabric instead of just
Uh-huh.
the edges,
Yeah,
and that's really the big difference.
it is. Yep.
Between those 2 with that throat space, and you'll see that today when we start doing,
Yes.
some of the decorative stitching. We'll
Absolutely.
show you that.
I mean, and if you already have an Accolade and you have the space for it, the Euphoria, which we have up here right now, is a great,
Is a really great option
it
because that gives you
yeah, it
that
gives you the
ability.
space
Yep,
that you, are missing, for doing that cover hemming part, and you can kind of bounce back and forth, which is kind of what we'll be doing today, bouncing back and forth between
yep,
cover hemming and that, and this, again, has dropped, drastically, so, we've been selling it nationally for $19.99
yep,
for since it was released.
yeah,
Um,
that was the price,
that was the price.
and it's one more time, drop,
Drop, yes.
and
We don't get to say that very often, it's
it
crazy.
everything for the last few years has just been going up,
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 up.
and up,
Yeah,
and all of these, almost across the board have all gone down.
yes. And this is that bundle that you get. So there is a 10-foot kit. Again, we're giving you that inspiration, that foot inspiration guide. Obviously, the book has more accessories than what you get in your kit, but it might work with your other machine as well. And then that love of sewing, and that bundle is 25, 38, 75. Again, about $1,000 difference
Right,
for all of that stuff. And then we have the feet that are in the Accolade, which
the
is a
euphoria.
nice, yes, the Euphoria, thank you.
Yeah,
I can read if I try. It's a little, a nice little collection of different types of feet.
kind of like your go-tos.
Mhm.
Yep,
Yep, absolutely. And then we have the Acclaim, which is the serger that I'll be stitching on today, which is the first baby machine I took home.
Mhm.
I was
Which
like,
was so funny.
it was. I was like, this is so much nicer than anything that I had been serging on before. I had a Viking serger for a very long time, and it did make it through a house fire. And I was selling Bernina sewing machines at the time, and every time I played on those sergers, they were fussy. And I was like, oh, I can only use this thread with it because the thread that I have over here doesn't work with it. And it just made me crazy. So I sold those sewing machines for 12 years and never owned. And you know me, I'm an easy sell. So, right. I,
Yeah.
I never owned one of those sergers. And so I was definitely, uh, and I had heard, when you don't sell a brand and you know nothing about it, right? The things that people say to you, you're like, oh yeah, you won't be able to thread decorative thread, you won't be able to do decorative stitches, and because you don't know. But we're gonna show you that's not the case today for sure. But I certainly spewed that stuff because I didn't know.
Right?
So if I ever sold anybody a Bernina Serger and now you regret it, I'm sorry.
Sorry. She didn't mean
I
it.
didn't mean it. I didn't know. I would have told you. Go get the other one. But I took this Acclaim home and it was just fantastic. It was so easy to use. And I
You
sewed.
took our floor model
I
home.
did. I took the
Yeah.
floor model home for the weekend and I sewed. And Dave's like, oh my God, you didn't say like any bad words or anything. He's like, you should get it. I'm like, great. I came in and I ordered the triumph and the table. Dave's like, this looks a little bigger than the one you took home. I'm like,
Yeah, maybe.
but
What do you expect, honey?
right. I'm a top of the line girl.
But yeah, so the Acclaim is a beautiful machine. It's a little bit bigger
Hmm.
than the other four threads. So you do have a little bit more space. You've got like
Yeah,
a 2-inch throat. So you've got a little bit more room. It does the wave stitch, which is a beautiful stitch.
fun. Yes,
It's a lot of fun if that's your thing.
decorative things. Yeah.
It does give you a little bit more bang there.
Hmm.
Um, and
Better
it's
light.
it's got a better light. But what it also has is that air
Air
threading in
threading.
the needles. So it has a couple things in there and some few other safety features.
Yes,
So they upped the game in
it
that
did.
machine
Yeah.
that is not in some of the other four
I
threads
really love the presser foot lifter being
on the side.
on the right side of the machine instead of reaching behind. That is
Is
for
this a big
me,
deal for you?
it totally is. For some reason, I think it's because we have sewn on a machine that we don't reach behind and lift up
Yeah,
the presser foot. So I just do that so rarely, that
it's
that
very hard for you to do that.
it is. I'm like at the machine. There's no button. What am I supposed
How do
to
I do
do?
this?
I have a really tough time with that, remembering where it is, and so it just does not work for
Yeah,
me.
we were talking about which machines we were going to sew, and I'm like, oh, we should do these two, and she's like, okay, or we could do this. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And I was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because of where that button is or the
The
lever
lever
is."
is.
I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine."
Yeah, yeah. I know. Like it's not that the other machines are not great. They
'Cause they
totally
are.
are. It's just I cannot get my muscle memory to go behind the machine.
It was pretty
I'm
funny.
like tapping the machine. Okay, it's right back here. So it's like I'm like
So,
blind over there leading.
yeah, it's kind of I don't know, maybe we could have been entertained watching her
It
fumble for it,
totally would have been entertaining.
yeah, so this machine also went down.
It did.
So
Yes.
it is now on sale, for $24.99, which
Hmm.
is awesome. And again, it's a beautiful this is now the price that the Victory used to be.
Yes,
This used to be over 3,000.
it was. Yes.
So I mean,
I
it's a
think at the highest point we were at
32
32 or 34.
32.99, I think
Yeah,
was where it was, which, I mean, it was worth it. I'm not saying it wasn't worth it, but wow, is this a nice price.
yeah, it is.
So, really, really great, and of course, we do have a bundle available for this one as well. So, if you are looking to add on all of those fun things, this might look familiar at this point. We're gonna, add in the foot book inspiration, the 10-foot kit, and the love of sewing. So all of those same features that we, added into the other machines, and that bundle price is 33.88.75. So again, pretty much where we were at for the
before.
machine-only price point we're gonna have that entire bundle at. So, that is the Acclaim, and here's the 10-foot kit and what that includes. And again, that is going to have the cording foot and, a lot of the other base feet that are in there. Is your slide thing is over there. I can't tell. Is the pin tuck in that one?
There is no pin tuck
Oh, no, of course
foot.
not, 'cause that's not that machine.
Yes,
I'm good. Don't mind me.
on that style
I'm just
machine.
reading through, like, thinking, "What's there?" But yeah, the cording foot that we would use is there.
Yep,
Yep.
absolutely.
So, that's kind of, again, go-to feet.
Yeah, a lot of your
Of the
utilitarian type feet.
utilitarian things. That blind hem foot is wonderful.
Mhm.
The clear foot is great,
Yep.
enabling you to really see right up to the needle, especially when you're learning.
Mhm.
If you are new to serging, being able to see all the way up to, um,
Yeah.
the needle and see what's happening at the blade,
Yep.
and while you're learning, being able to really see what's happening because these feet have a lot of metal.
They do, they're big.
They're big and they're solid.
Mhm.
So it's really great, for that. And here's the victory. I just love this little machine.
I know, it's so cute.
It's just a phenomenal little machine, and this price is lower than it was when I started working here.
Yes. Yep.
I'm still blown
When
away
it
by
was the
this.
Imagine.
It was the Imagine,
Mhm.
and they have changed, and it now has a, what LED bulb in it,
Mhm.
and they changed the name. They haven't changed a whole
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
outside of that. It's on the same frame as the Imagine.
They
Stitch,
changed the,
they changed the tree, that's
the
right.
trees,
Mhm.
yeah, little cosmetic things on them have been updated as they've learned, but for the most part, and really if you want an entry-level machine and you want to get into serging, this machine is definitely it's a great price
It's a
point,
rock star. It
and,
really is.
you will not be disappointed. I mean, and if you have 2 spaces in your sewing room, you could get the Victory, which will do all of the fun stitches that you need, and then get yourself a Euphoria, and
Absolutely.
for a really great price, have a gargantuan machine that you can do
All of
fun
those cover
decorative
hem.
stitching, yes. And if you're a quilter, let me just say, the thing about a Euphoria or a Triumph, if you're sewing that chain stitch, it's literally like having a bobbin that is the size of a
A spool of
cone.
thread.
I mean, it doesn't run out because you're using cone thread over there.
Yep.
So, you can do a
You
lot
can
of
do your piecing and just keep going and
yeah,
keep
you can
going.
do a lot of, utilitarian type piecing. I wouldn't do like a Lemoyne star on my it takes up a little bit of space in the seam allowance there, the chain, but, 4 patches and,
Your basic
your
stuff.
basic stuff,
Yep,
you will
absolutely.
just have so much fun doing that, but $14.99 for the Victory, you just can't beat it, and again, if you want to add the bundle, you can get the 10-foot kit. It is the same 10-foot kit that we were just talking about with the Acclaim, the Love of Sewing, and your inspiration guide. And here's the same 10 feet again. So that doesn't change. But that is basically what we have. And then we have the whoops, wrong button. Then we have the techniques that we're going to be talking about
Great.
today.
So you can
So
see some of the images.
mhm,
The solid pink in the upper left-hand corner, those are your pin tucks.
yes.
So if you're not really sure exactly, okay, what are
What
they
is it?
talking about?
Right.
You can see those here. We've got a rolled hem with ruffles there, to the right of those pin tucks. And then
Flat locking.
flat locking in the
W
yellow one there.
Yep, and
Um,
that's just a different color of the, chain stitching up at the top.
yep. And then we've got our piping that we keep talking about in the heart
Mhm.
there, and lots of ruffles that's
Yeah.
going to end up in your puffing.
Mhm.
So that's going to be that darker navy with flowers there in the bottom right. So
Yes.
lots of fun and wonderful, which button are you gonna
I'm gonna push this one
push? The
because
mouse is going all over
I
the
know
screen.
I am smart and I can figure it out. Alright, so let's do this too. We'll get
Oh.
fancy. Well, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Alright.
So that is, all of the wonderful machine specials that we have, and we have pretty much everything in stock. We've got one of those machines on its way here, but everything else we've got here.
Yes.
So lots of fun things, and
Lots of fun things. And everything but the Triumph is available on the website. So
right, you're not allowed to sell the Triumph online. So
yes.
If that is the machine for you, which it's definitely the machine for me, just give us a buzz or come on in, and we
Yes.
can get you taken care of. So,
Absolutely. But everything else, so if you are not local to us, everything else is we can
right on the
purchase
site.
it and we can ship it to you, and we can help you with classes via Zoom as
Yep.
you're learning it.
And if you got that email we sent out last evening reminding everybody to be here today, there's a link to that webpage with all of the specials. So everything is there. If you are like, okay, yeah, I can't find it, hop into that email. There's a link right there that'll take you right to that page.
Yes. So, shall we
let's get going.
Let's get going.
Let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun. What are we going to start with today?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Should we talk about machine parts and what we're doing with threading?
Yes, let's talk about threading.
So threading, you've got that camera on my machine. Yes?
Nope, I've got it on mine.
I looked over there, and that's how I was like, nope, not mine. That one's on yours.
That one.
So what we've got there is the door. And when you open the door, and then on an Acclaim, you've got also a blade cover. There is a nice lever that is at the front of the machine. So when we're threading, the first thing that we have to do is tell the machine we want to thread. And it is super, super simple. That is literally the fun thing about these machines is the simplicity. When we talk to people about, I've had a serger and I never use it because it's such a pain to thread. And if I break a thread, I have to start all over again, and yada, yada, goes on and on and on. So these machines, not so much.
Yeah, they're really easy.
So
yeah, we're
going to start with that one.
Yeah, let's thread for a flat lock. So I'm going to pop this up for just a second so we can show you what we're doing. These are definitely not in the right order.
There we go.
Too many. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to thread this machine for a 2-thread flat lock. You should have a card in your arsenal of stuff that comes with your machine.
Yours is to the right. I thought.
There it is. So your recipe card will give you the information that you need. But essentially, when we do a 2-thread flat lock, we have 2 special things that we have to do. We have to use the subsidiary looper option, and we are putting our needle thread through a looper area. So let's go back to here.
Lots of buttons.
So many buttons. Okay, great. So for the subsidiary looper on the machine is going to be attached over here, and the threading mechanism that we'll be working on is over here. So one of the first things that we need to do is we need to tell the machine that we want to go into threading mode. So we're going to use this dial right here, and I'm going to turn it to the threading. Now, on all of the machines, when we put the machine in threading, nothing actually happens until we turn our hand wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the hand wheel and I'm going to turn it towards me, and it's going to click in place.
Go ahead. Just keep doing your
All right. So as we click in place, now when I move my hand wheel, nothing happens. So I've locked everything in place, and the tubes down here, they're closed. So when I poof my air through, the thread is gonna just pop out wherever I need it. So I'm doing the 2-thread flat lock, which is this guy right here. And so this tells me everything that I need to know and where I need to put my thread. In this particular style stitch, we want to put our decorative thread in the needle typically, but on this particular one, we're going to be swapping our needle and our basically sewing upside down and on the top, because that's what's gonna make this work better. So I'm actually gonna put my thread. I have this wound on a bobbin,
I was gonna say, what do you have there?
because I only had one spool and I wanted to make it work. So I wound a bobbin on my sewing machine, and I'm using this little guy here to sit on top of my thread tree over here. And then my bobbin is gonna sit down and I'm gonna pull this up. Now this is my needle thread, and my needle thread is gonna go in my upper looper tension disc, which is this guy right here. So I'm gonna snap that guy in place and I'm gonna bring him down, and then he's gonna go to my needles, and I'm gonna come underneath this little guide here, go straight across the machine. This is kind of like a regular sewing machine, up and down, and then I'm gonna go over to my needles. I'm not sure if I have my needle in the correct position yet, so I'll,
Hang on for a second.
yeah, it'll just hang out for a second, and then we're gonna work on our looper thread. So I have my cone, and I'll find the end in a minute. Here it is. So I've got my cone and I'm gonna place it on the machine. And again, I'm popping into my tension disc at the top and I'm gonna bring this down. Now this is my lower looper and this is where I'm gonna be going over here. I cannot show you the back of the machine and how the bobbin is set up on this machine, but we will be able to show you on a different machine. But I promise you, it literally is just sitting, it's just sitting on the top of this, just like a regular spool. So nothing special about it. So you have to have a long tail thread. So I'm gonna pull a long tail thread on here and I'm gonna pop this thread into my lower looper. There we go. And then I'm gonna push the button here, which is my push to thread loopers. And so my upper looper, my lower looper did not go through because I'm a little squirrely here. Let's try that again. There we go. So here we have the thread, and I'm gonna just leave that hanging out there for right now. Now I need to take care of my upper looper. So this guy right here is my upper looper. Um, it is the subsidiary guide for my upper looper. So it's kind of spring loaded. So I'm gonna pull it towards the back of the machine here, and then I'm gonna let it swing over, and then it's just gonna plop in place. And what happens is it now will prevent my thread from sort of getting tangled around my upper looper and deflect the thread where I need it to do. So I've got that engaged there. So I typically just leave my lower looper thread just kind of hanging out down here. So I just trim the tail thread so it's not super long, and I'm just gonna leave it there. Now, we are gonna work on the threading the needle here, and so I do need to just take a peek over here, and this is a narrow, so I want this needle to be on the left side because
Side,
this
of
is
course.
a wide. So I'm just going to loosen this screw and pull that down, and then slide it back up on the other side. That screw hole is probably not loose. I'm sorry. Weird angle. Loosen that. Find my hole. I know you're here somewhere,
Why is it always so much harder when you're live on camera?
right? It helps when you have the needle going in the right direction. All
That
right.
does help. You're not wrong.
Flat to the back. And now my needle is on the left side. Now I haven't taken my machine out of threading yet because I'm going to go ahead and use the air threader for the needle. So everything is still locked in place. Now I'm going to use the dial on the side, not the dial, the lever on the side here, and I'm going to pull it down. And you can see that I have this little yellowy thing coming down here. That is the guide that is going to sort of like suck the air through the needle. It's kind of like a vacuum.
Sounds like an air compressor, works like a vacuum.
Yep. So all I need to do is, this thread is really short. All I need to do is I need to have my thread near the hole when I turn the machine on for threading. you might hear a funny noise, so I'm gonna turn it on. It really helps when your fingers are not super dry. There we go. There, and then it will right. So there we have our needle threaded, and that is all I have to do for the basic setup. I still need to make changes to the machine to make sure that I have my knife and everything in the correct position. So my machine is telling me that my stitch needs to be on A. It is recommending that I have my width on 7.5, which is the widest that it can go, and my length somewhere between 2 and 2.5. So I'm gonna make that, I don't know, 2-ish. So, and then I have my left needle in. So now I have everything set the way that I want it to be set up. Now the machine will not let me close my door if I don't put the machine back in serging so that it's actually prepared for us to do stitching. So that is how we're going to set the machine up. I'm gonna turn this a little bit here. You might actually be able to see there, you can kind of see the bobbin in the back right here.
Try to.
There we go. So there's my bobbin sitting on the back. All right. So Carolyn is asking, can you please give me the width and the length setting again? My width and my length setting are exactly what my card is telling me to be, which is right around 2.5, and my width is at 7.5. So that is what I have the machine set on. This is really just a personal preference. You can do, you can change this up a little bit. It does not have to be exactly like this. But that is just where we kind of have that set up. I also want to make sure that I have my differential feed on N because for the fabric that we're going to be using, I don't really need it to gather or stretch for any particular reason. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to do some of our piecing. So if I were not piecing and trying to use this in the manner that we are using it for here, typically it's just the needle thread that we need to have the decorative thread in when we're doing this particular stitch. So on like Lisa's sample, she did hers this way. She alternated sewing the pieces right sides and wrong sides together. On mine, I did several of these with the chain, and then I did, now the chain with the flat lock, and then I did, instead of alternating that, I did a 4 thread. So she's got the back side.
That's the poof one, that's the looper side.
And then she's got the needle side that's a little easier to see on this one, which is just like, looks like a ladder. So there we go. So sometimes depending on your machine, it may tell you to put your blade up or down. I'm not really sure why it's not consistent across the board. I prefer when I'm using it for decorative purposes to keep my blade up and to trim. I like to do, if I'm working on a stitch that actually has the thread trimming, then I like to have the blade up because that makes it easier. I get a nice cleaner finish. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna put 2 fabrics together, and these are wrong sides together. So I'm just gonna start alternating this, and I'm just running the fabric along the edge of the serger here. So there we have wrong sides, and I'll put these 2 together, right side. Just riding the machine edge and trimming just a little bit. So now I have 2 pieces. Do you want to show these under the camera over there so you can kind of see
They can see the mess that we have
the
underneath
mess?
the
Yep. So this is what your flat lock pieces are going
camera.
to look like.
So this is right side together, and of course the looper is there. So when we open it, of course, it doesn't look like anything yet. This is the fun part, right? So you have to kind of pull and get that to look like the stitch that we're looking for. So again, if you have wrong sides together, the ladder is going to be on the sides that you have together. So this one with the right side together, there is your looper. And you do the little shimmy shake dance, get that open. And is this a variegated?
Yep.
So on the finished side, and you kind of work that with your fingers to smooth things out. Um, that is the difference in how that's going to actually look on the finished sides.
And we are using this alternating your pieces, or you could do them all the same. It really doesn't matter. This is completely up to you.
Yep.
You're going to do that until you get all of the pieces sewn together so that you have 2 strips, and your strips should be at least 18 inches in length when you are finished. So they can be trimmed up a little bit if they are more, but you will need 2 sets or 1 set at the yard that you trim down later on. You will need 2 sets that are going to equal at least 18 inches. And so that is where you're going to sew all of your little pieces. If you purchase the pattern, you will have all of that, all the cutting instructions for how you're doing that. If you don't like the look of this, you could certainly do 3 thread and just have that on the outside. So on this sample over here, instead of alternating between the flat lock pieces, I have like sort of a 3-dimensional look here.
So here's the flat lock. And then this is a 3 thread that when she's sewn those pieces together has flattened that so that it lays pretty flat, but you still have a little bit of dimension on the seam. So, and she's alternated a couple flat locks, a couple 3 thread, so on and so forth.
Yep, super easy. And then, like I said, you're just going to keep sewing these pieces together until you have them how you want it to look. So you have enough length that you can trim those pieces down and start and set that aside. So you'll do your little strip of fabric and then set it aside. So next we are going to go over to the Triumph and we are going to do some pin tucking. Is that correct?
I think that's the plan.
All right, so we're gonna move to this machine.
All right. Try as we might, it's a little dark over here, so I apologize. There's no perfect way to make that not be. So we are going to be doing our pin tucks. So we need to remove the regular foot. So I've got the doors open already. The door, as you can see, is pretty wide here. One of the things that is different when you have an 8 thread versus the 4 thread is you have 2 different door options here. So we're going to be doing a cover stitch. So I'm going to end up needing a table here instead of the blade cover. So the blade cover literally is exactly it sounds like. It covers up this whole area here. So there is a little section that's got lines on it, and when you push that down a little bit, that blade cover door comes right off, and I'm just gonna set that aside. I'm not gonna put the table on yet.
A
That'll
little
help you
easier to
guys
see.
be able to see a little bit easier what's going on. So I'm just going to turn again so you guys can see hopefully a little bit better where everything is at. So just like Sarah did the threading aspects, I still have to do the same thing here. So I have to tell the machine I want to thread by turning this here. On our 4-thread machines, the Victory, there's a little button that you hold in while you're turning the hand wheel. Same thing, we're just telling the machine we want to thread, but that does look a little bit different. And then evidently I was already there. So let's tell it something a little different. When we turn that, we then need to turn the hand wheel. You'll see everything's moving over here until we get into the highest needle position, and then the tubes will lock into place. So those tubes are going to connect my ports here to the connections over on the left. One thing that is definitely going to be different is I'm going to need a lot larger tail because my port is way over here and all my thread has to go a lot farther. So a lot of people, we get that phone call is, it's not working. No thread's coming out over here. And it's because they didn't give it enough thread and it just didn't make it all the way across. So it's very common when you first are doing this. I didn't get enough thread the first time I sat down and did this either. So it's a very common thing to do that and think that you've got enough thread there, but you don't.
Yeah, I always think you need more than you think.
You do the other way.
I never have enough. Like
Oh.
I always think I have
Think that you have a
more than
ton
I
there
really
and
have.
it's not actually enough there.
And then it doesn't work.
I'm so sorry. So it's just not. I've got a
This helps?
very. I've been trying that. It's not really doing it.
Okay. Do you want to point and I can talk?
I apologize. So we are going to go. It doesn't really matter which narrow, but
Yeah, I think I used the center and the right
and you
needle.
go right
Yeah.
narrow. So can you guys? There we go. I'm going to stitch or thread for a cover stitch right narrow, and so I'm going to need the C2 and C3. I currently have 5 needles in this machine because it was threaded for everything. So I'm going to have to take a couple needles out. And we talked about that sewing table. So this table is going to need to go on instead of the um, blade cover, and I do need to lock my needle. That's not a needle. My blade down. So we've got a couple things that we have to do before.
And we have to put our upper looper down at some
Yes,
point.
we are going to have to lower that. So first things first, I need to take that out. You don't have to tighten your needle screws on here. It's just a habit because I just can't seem to handle loose screws.
No loose screws. And
No loose screws.
so on the type that uses the little Allen wrench, these screws, they don't vibrate out. If you're using like a flathead screwdriver, they will vibrate out those. So those ones definitely have to be tightened up.
All right. So I use the little tray that sits underneath our thread to put my screws in so that I don't lose them. If they are dead needles, like I pitch them. I don't put them in there, but these are brand new needles. We just actually change them. So I don't need to do that. So once I have my needles in the right position, I'm going to start with the looper thread. So I'm going to turn this hopefully a little bit farther and see if you guys, that's probably way too low, isn't it?
It is, but if you turn it the opposite way, I think I can catch it on the other camera.
Okay.
So if you come towards me.
I can do that. We're going to do pin tucks.
So you are staring at the back of the Triumph right now.
So here is for that lever that has to be on the side so Sarah can sew. And this right here is what we are going to be using for threading, which is super important. So let me turn just a little bit more. So this is where we're going to be threading our looper thread. And I'm just gonna get that out of my way. So I'm going to, you think that's gonna be tall enough?
I think we're probably not using our faces anymore on the camera as much, so we can go a little taller.
All right. So first thing that we need to do is go through that hole in the top with our thread. And then there's a notch right here that is metal that we need to hook our thread through. So that is the base part. And then there is a little plastic guide that we need to put the thread through that will then come to the front. And there is a hook in the front. And that is literally all there is. So if you have an ovation at home, you have a different things. A little bit different setting. It looks about the same. It's just a slightly different. You have your tension piece that sits right here, and you're going around your tension dial instead of that little guide right there. So they changed that on here. That's the only difference. So they made it slightly easier. They actually listened when people said,
"Yeah,
hey, can you make this a little easier?" And they did. So that was the only real change that they made on that little guy right there. So now that I have my thread in position, I'm going to move that up out of the way. This is just standard embroidery thread that I'm using. So this is a 48 embroidery thread that I'm putting in. Miss Carolyn answered that question. All right. So we good?
We're good. Yeah.
All right. Switch again. It has like suction on the bottom of the machine, so it doesn't just slide on tables. If you're wondering, it's not that heavy. It's like suctioned to the bottom of the table, so it doesn't want to.
So just slide.
I was like, okay, where are we at here?
Just grab the picture and slide. There we go.
There we go. So we are at the port here. And again, we need to have a pretty good amount of thread because it's got to go from here all the way over to there. So just like before, we need to have the tip of that into our threading port here. You absolutely do not want to ever put oil in those ports. And we want to have that again coming over and pooling into that little black nest over there. So that is where we're aiming for. And that's what we got. So we know we have that. We don't want to pull it out. We want it to stay in there for when we first start stitching. So we're going to leave that in there. And I've got my looper all threaded for chain. I'm not doing anything with my upper or lower loopers. I just want the C, which is calling for my cover or chain. So that part is all set, and I can go back over to the other.
Yeah, we'll go back to.
I'm just wondering if
I can get this with the other camera if you want, or do you think we can get it with this one?
I gotta go the other way.
Yeah.
All right, they can do that. They can do that. So I am going to switch so you guys can see the back. I am in C2 and C3 on my needles. So it doesn't really matter what I have here. I'm going to get my threads coming down. So we talked about this briefly when we were talking about machines, that they changed this little guy here. It is just held on by a screw. So if you are a Ovation owner and you want to swap this, they're like $20. Totally worth the $20 because you can swap that out and make threading this super, super easier. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. All right. So I need to go in my 2 and my 3 here. So what you want to do is line that up. And then instead of having to fish around, I just click to the right and it pops into position and grabs hold of my ring. So it's literally that simple. Let me see if I can do that a little bit easier on this one.
I was gonna say maybe if I hold it down here.
So you line it up and then push to the right and it literally pops in and it's there. If you're an Ovation owner, you're fishing like literally for
What feels like hours.
it feels like forever. It doesn't pop in there. These literally pop just that quickly. And it's just super simple to get all of that into position. Once you have that, you are then going to, thanks, then you're going to pull these back around and like your regular sewing machine like we did on the other, you've got to go around these metals. You're going to go behind and under here and then up and over on the metal on the right with both threads. And then we have the notch that they go on for the needle. And just like with our I don't know where the heck that one went. It went for a ride. It was way too far back. We have a needle threader on board here. So we can, why do you not want to go where I tell you to go? There you are. All right. So with my threads out of the way, oh, for crying out loud, I need to bring that down. Now, because we are both I can't tilt that down. Let me see if I can. I've got a lever here that says cover and chain or overlock. This is specifically for the air portion of my needle threader, and I need to have that into whichever set of needles that I am threading. I am in chain and cover, which is where that happens to be, so I don't need to move that, but you always need to check that before you bring that down and push the button. Otherwise, you won't get air, and you'll be like, "Why is that not working?"
We have definitely had people say their air
Your
threader
air threader's not working,
and
it doesn't have anything to do with it not working. They just don't have that lever to the right or to the left where it's supposed to be. Did I set those tweezers down? For crying out loud.
Yep.
All right. So when we are doing this, just like she said, we're going to hold that thread right in front. The hard part is letting go. All we have to do is push the button. And when you pull up, you can see the thread also is pulled up with that, and my needles are threaded. So we are now threaded for a narrow, right narrow cover. That simple. With that threader in there is just phenomenal. And yet again, I keep pulling these over. They just don't want to stay where I tell them to go. So I have the table here. This has screw holes. Again, this is something that is a little different than your Ovation if you have that. On your Ovation table, you only have one set. You can get that table with the two because those new tools that are in that 7-foot kit, you would also need to purchase this table or else you wouldn't be able to use any of those tools.
Yes.
So I don't remember, was that Carolyn?
Yes.
Carolyn, if you want to get that 7-foot kit, you also need this table.
Yes.
All right. So if you are following the rest of your guide, you need to turn your upper looper to the down position because we need to lock that down. And we are also going to lock our blade down.
Which is easier to do before you put the blade on.
Before you put the table on. So you can see that just dropped out of position there. And then we are going to adjust our tensions and our length, and I'm just going to get that locked. All right, so the width does not matter, except that if you notice, if my width is wide, there's a gap between my table and my plate over here. So if you lower the width, it'll allow your table to snap all the way in. So you'll want to do that just to make sure that you can't you won't have that gap in there because it's like always going to be where your threads or your something gets stuck down in there. So you'll always want to lower that in place.
Absolutely.
Your length is going to be somewhere between 2 and 4. That's going to be a preference. I don't like mine too long. I like to go 2.5 ish,
Mhm.
somewhere in there. What about you?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes maybe 3.
Somewhere in between 2.5 and 3. It'll
Yeah.
just depend on where I'm putting the stitches.
It definitely changes the look of the like, your chaining
Yep,
and different, stitches. Um, so I'm gonna pop this up on the screen really quickly, just so that we can talk about what she just did. Um, so we have, we're threading for a narrow cover hem. So that is this picture right here. And you can kind of see on the screen here that we've got threads going from the left side and threads from the right side. So we picked the middle and the right, so C2 and C3. Stitch length somewhere 2.5 to 3. Chain needle looper tension and the chain looper, the chain needle tension and the chain looper tension. We are getting ready to set right now. These are literally the instructions from the card. So we didn't make any changes from this. So you will have these settings um, on your card if you take the time to look at it. If you bought our pattern, you will also
it's
have,
also in the pattern.
it is also on the pattern. Absolutely. So here we go. Do
So I'm turning this back to serging so I can close the doors because as we mentioned before, it will not allow you to close the door. I have turned my length dial here to, I don't know, it's somewhere between 2.5 and 3.
Mhm.
And then up top here, I have a dial here, and I also have a dial um, on the right-hand side by the presser foot lever here. I want this one to be at right about 1,
Mhm.
probably, and this one is going to be between 4 and 6. I'm at about 4.5. That's usually a pretty good number.
Yep.
Um, if you don't like what your stitches look like, then you can make an adjustment. So unlike your overlock stitches, there are tension dials for your chain or cover stitches. So you can double check and see, you're going to want to do a test run in general before you have your stitches taken off.
Mhm.
So um,
And we're doing a pin tuck.
we are, I think that's behind you. So we chose this stitch because that's what it tells you to do in your pin tuck instructions. So in your pin tuck, um, if you purchase the pin tuck foot, you get instructions that tell you everything that we just did. You also get, of course, the pin tuck foot, and you get 2 plastic guides. You get an A and a B. We are going to do the non-corded, which means we're not putting anything inside. It's just going to be fabric that's there. If we're putting a cording in, this one here would allow you to feed a cord through there. Um, we're not doing that kind. We're just going to do the fabric. So I'm going to put that guy away. We are going to do the A placement, which just gives you a plastic guide that pops the material up. So I don't know if you guys can see that there's a little lift there, but that is basically going to push the fabric up and give it that pleat for us. We place that literally on the machine. So you're going to push your door open and put that in position on the machine and close the door. Now you're ready to go with that.
Yes. Super easy.
Super complicated. So scary. And then we need to put the foot on. So, see now I am I'm always fumbling. Where is this? Because mine doesn't have the foot over there. All right. So we're gonna attach our foot and that has a groove underneath it.
Mhm.
And there are guides so that you can see where your needles would be. So you've got your needle guides, however you are marking your fabric, that you can see where that's going to be.
Yep, the notches on the front part of the foot, those are going to be, the same those are in the place of where your actual needles are. I just totally zapped myself on this camera.
I saw that.
So, it's really hard to see, but there are notches here, and there are only 2 on this because you're only supposed to be using 2 needles for this. And these are the 2 needles that they recommend. So there we go. We are using that.
So you can do a couple different things depending upon how you want to mark. If you have the quilt guide, which I've already screwed onto the machine here, just so that you guys can see what that is, you can iron on or mark with a pen your first line and then use that for any subsequent lines. Or you can draw all of the lines. It just depends on what you have available to you. So I pressed in the first line so that I have a literally pressed fold to use as my guide. So I am going to line that up. And anytime that you are using a chain cover, you need to start with your needles in the fabric. Otherwise, you will not get a start. It will just not create that chain loop on the back.
Do you want to turn the machine so that you're a little straighter, and then I can adjust the camera?
There's no way it's going to be a straight line, so that way, not even a chance. So what I'm going to do is watch for this line. I don't want to watch the needles, of course. I need to watch this line that it stays in between those needle marks on the foot. And I am just going to sew and let the machine do the rest for me. Wow, that's even slow. All right, so one line is done, and you can see that I have an inch of fabric raised.
And tuck ever.
And it's perfect. I don't have to do anything because that foot literally does all the work for me. So now, where am I going to put the other ones? So I've got a couple options. One, I could have marked all of my lines. Or if you have this quilt guide, you can use that as your option. So do we have anything to measure with over here? Because I didn't think of that.
No, but I will grab. We have this is gargantuan. We do not want that. We have this.
So we want these to be roughly 3 inches total. So an inch to the right and an inch to the left. So what we're going to do is measure an inch over. That looks pretty good. All right. Tighten your screw so that it doesn't, as I just moved it. So there's a screw on the back of the foot, or the ankle, to be more specific, that tightens that and keeps it from shifting. And what I need to do now is I need to run this piping. See, I'm going back here.
Yeah, I'm going to do that for you.
And I'm going to run this guide right along the original one that I stitched so that I have a consistent distance from the one I just did to the next one. And oh yeah, let's see. I popped something.
You lost a needle thread.
I lost a needle thread. See what happens. Never fail alive. It's going to happen, right?
No, it does.
Do you think I did that at home?
No.
I did not do that at home. All right. So we are going to get some tension release so I can move those out. All right. So see, it happens for everybody, guys.
You got a pretty deep stitch back here.
Yeah. Always do. Wonder what it is. So we're just gonna rethread. No biggie. Pretty tight.
It is very tight.
I'll just go on the other side.
Yeah.
All right. So I am rethreaded.
Might have been why it broke. I wonder if maybe it got caught underneath it just a tad.
Moving now. Huh. Well, as we know, it's not usually the machine. Oh, I did. All right. The other side.
It's a variegated.
I'll be darned.
She'll probably just go right over it.
Yeah, let's go this way. All right. So, see, I don't know where to look on this side. All right. So my needles are in the fabric since I just pulled everything out. I don't have a chain started. So you always want to make sure, again, that it is
On the fabric.
on the fabric if you don't have the chain already started. And we're just going to keep this guide right on. And I'm stitching good this time. So see, it happens to everybody. I'm just going to keep that guide right on my previous pin tuck. And that's how it works.
Yep. So you just keep stitching your pin tucks until you
Until you have whatever it is that you're looking for. So I have that completely parallel line due to that quilt guide. That's the other option, again, if you don't have that, would be to draw the lines with a marking pen of whatever sort that you have and keep those going again, however many you want. So that's actually what I did at home. And because I didn't have a quilt guide at home. So I drew 3 lines. I found the center of my fabric, drew an inch to the right, drew an inch to the left, and that's how I did the pin tucks on this sample here. So that will work its way out either way. It works perfectly well if you don't have it. I will say a lot faster to put a guide on there than it was to draw all of the lines.
Yeah, it
The
does.
length of where I was stitching.
Definitely make it a little bit faster.
Absolutely.
And it's a really nice foot to have in your arsenal of accessories because it's very versatile
Yep.
and it definitely helps you, you know, I don't know, be a little bit more quick about it. I mean, in a serger, it's all about being quick anyways, so it does speed up the process just a little bit.
For sure. Absolutely.
So
what's next?
we're going to do a roll top. Yep, we're going to do a 3-thread roll top.
All right.
So we're going to go to, whoop, push the right button, Sarah. We're going to go back over here, and we are back at the acclaim, and we are going to be moving some fabric and through here and changing our stitches up a little bit. So a 3-thread roll top on our Babylock Serger The decorative thread needs to be in the upper looper. It does not have to be decorative any other place, but it definitely needs to be decorative in our upper looper. So, um, I am going to you've already seen what it looks like in here, so I'm going to basically, verbally talk you through what I am doing so that, you could duplicate this when you get home. The very first thing that I wanna make sure that I do is I want to disengage the subsidiary looper. I find that if I don't do this first, I'm gonna be constantly wondering why my upper looper does not thread. So that's the first thing that I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna pull out the threads that I had in here. So threads are coming out, and I'm gonna go ahead and put my variegated thread in my upper looper. You could use a variety of different types of threads. The thread that I'm using is a variegated thread. This is King Tut. It's a 40 weight 3-ply thread. It is cotton. You could definitely use a variety of different options here. You could use old nylon or poly yarn, which is this stuff here, and it's really springy, so it sits in the rolled hem really well. What's that? I think I'm okay. So, um, I've got my upper looper here, and then I'm gonna put some regular spools of serger thread in my lower looper. I'm using a thread that matches, and I'm also going to put this same thread in my needle. I'm gonna be moving my needle from the left side to the right side. All right. So have, I like to do my settings first because I always feel like once I get it done, once I'm threaded, I'm like ready to go and I always forget to do something. So I've got my stitch width dial set to the narrowest, which is going to be at like 3.0. That's where I'm gonna do my rolled hem because we don't need that to be a wide stitch. And I'm going to need to change my um, stitch selector guide to D. And I know this because my my card tells me to. So 3 thread rolled hem is right here, and I'm basically just following what this tells me to do. So my right needle, my stitch length, my stitch width, my stitch selector. So I've got those things all set up, and now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna thread everything up. So I'm pulling those tails super long, turning the needle threader in, engaging that, and I'm gonna go ahead and thread both the upper looper and the lower looper. There we go. See, I never have enough thread. Never on my first try. Okay, so there's my lower looper, and again, I usually just leave that down there, and I'm gonna thread my needle, just coming around like a normal in here, and I've got the right needle, so taking the left out, putting the right in. Same needle, just moving it. Okay, now I'm going to thread it. Pull that back. Okay, I'm just getting everything up underneath here, and then I am all set up, so I'm gonna go back to serging, and I'm gonna be able to close all of my doors, and now we are going to do a rolled hem. So, doo, doo, doo. Sorry about the camera movement there, trying to give you guys a better look at what we're doing. There we go. So I am all threaded. I have everything all set. I have my fabric. There's a foot controller around here somewhere. And again, what I'm gonna do is line the fabric with the edge of the plate here because I want to just skim. So I lift my foot up and I place the fabric so that I'm butting it right up to the blade, and then I'm just gonna start stitching.
Excuse me.
So you can see I did one full length of thread, um, one full length of the fabric, and come on, camera, show us the thread. There we go. So now you're going to flip that around, and we're going to stitch the other side. And then I'll do that really quickly. I don't think they need to see me stitching this. Do you want to get prepared for the technique, which is basically just taking the one needle out, right?
Are we gonna do that one?
Oh yeah, I forgot. Do that. Do you want to talk about prepping that while I stitch
Yeah,
the
I mean,
side of it?
we gonna use those?
Sure, I got plenty.
Or are we I mean, I can use these,
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. Whatever you want.
doesn't matter, I'll just use these.
Okay.
I'm gonna put the variegated in my looper.
Okay.
Alright, so, we're going to switch over here. So I've got, everything loose, and I have the, pin tuck, everything removed. What I'm going to do is change over a couple things. I'm gonna swap out, and I'm gonna put the variegated, thread in my looper, because what we're going to do is some basically a whole bunch of quilting stitches. So we're going to make this type of stitch, and so I want that variegated in in my looper for sure, so that it looks really pretty when I'm having this stitch be what is shown. So you can use all variegated threads, you can use different threads. It's really up to you what you want them to be. So we're going to just make a couple of changes and move some things around. I am going to put this pretty variegated thread as my looper thread so that that single piece is going to look really pretty by itself. And we're going to do that just like we did before. We're going to tell the machine that we want to thread, and we're going to turn that hand wheel towards us. And I'm going to put the tip of that thread.
Prettiest ribbon.
It does. It's so pretty. That fabric me every time we use
Every
it.
time we use it.
All right, so I've got the tip of that in my port here, and you can see that it popped right up into that basket there. And I have, again, all of the pin tuck pieces are removed, so I am going to just close that.
And quickly, Trish asked, "Are we going to be able to view this video anytime on YouTube?" Absolutely. This will remain on Facebook or YouTube. We do not have any intention on taking it down. So if you want to, obviously we're moving at a pace because we have two machines. It's probably a little quicker than what you might be moving at home.
It really helps if you actually thread that before you put that in the looper.
It does sometimes help, yes.
Yeah.
You can't magically make that go in.
So awake. Let's try that again.
So for consistency purposes, if you were doing this at home, like when I did mine, I basically left the same threads in. Like I put it variegated in my looper, even though I I didn't need it in my looper when I was doing everything, just because I didn't have to thread the machine back and forth as much. So, but as you know, it's not super difficult to thread it.
Now I'm good.
It's the little things, yes.
The little things.
All right. So we're doing a narrow cover hem, which is exactly the same thing that we did before. The only difference is we are going to use this to do the quilting. So we both alternated between flipping it upside down and doing it right side up to get two different different looks of the thread. Because the chain portion definitely looks different than the needle portion.
Yes. Now, did you do all one side and then all the other, or did you flip back and forth?
I flipped back and forth as I went.
But you had a quilt guide to give you that.
I did. I had the quilt guide, so I went. So I did like every other. So I started with this one, which everything was really close together, and like the 1 inch close together. And then I was like, "Oh my god, that took forever." It looks really nice, but it definitely took a lot of time. So then I spaced it out on the other side, but by basically alternating every other strip, upside down, right side up. That way gave me a different look.
I did mine more consistent. I did all one side, and then I used my foot as my guide, and I went a consistent distance from the previous line, and I did all the other side because I didn't have a guide. I needed something to use as a guide, so I did it all one and then so all of my stitches that are on top are an inch roughly away from my original stitches.
That works. As they say, always one way to skin a cat.
That poor cat. I feel really bad for him. He's had such a rough life.
And there are a variety of feet that you can use for this technique too.
Absolutely.
I really am a fan of the open toe applique foot. So that is the foot that I used when I was going back and forth upside down, just because I could see a little bit better. Excuse me.
Don't say.
I do. Apparently, I'm tired of hearing my own voice. All right. So basically, all we did was we decided to change up the thread to give us a slightly different look. I'm going to flip to the back of the machine here just so that we can give everybody a look of what it looks like when we have a bobbin for one of our needle threads. So I'm going to flip this over, and then we're going to move the camera down just a little bit. There we go.
So this is my left needle, and this is my right needle. So this is just a bobbin. it's a full bobbin, but it's just a bobbin. And then when you purchase the serger, it actually comes with all of these little adapter pieces. So
Mhm,
depending on what kind of thread you're putting on, what type of spool,
mhm.
it will sit well on the pin. So you get all kinds of different things that you can use.
That's my favorite one to use. I don't know why.
It's just it looks fun.
It is, yeah.
Um, so there's different types that you can use for those. Your typical Mac blocks fit really nicely with these. These tend to get lost inside Babylock
They do,
spools.
yes.
Um, but if you're using something like this would give it that flat surface to sit on, so it doesn't bounce around and whatnot as you're using. So if you have a spool that you know you got in a massive spool, and you're like, "Yeah, I don't wanna buy 3 of those, but I want them in both my needles and my looper," you could
Mhm.
run,
Just find some
additional
bobbins.
spools and run the bobbins to have, those extra. You do need to be aware that, your looper is going to take more thread up
Mhm.
than your needle, so pay attention to that and have, you know, a little bit of smart thought going into where you put what, but outside of that, you're, good to go.
Yeah, when
So
I did these that were super close together, this one right here, they're a little closer together than everything else. I actually a full bobbin was not enough in my for each of my needles. So, if that gives you any indication of how much you would need, I would definitely recommend, at least 2 bobbins of each. Um,
yeah.
you have no choice but to rethread when you run out. Um, but
Nope.
but then you have to also unthread your looper if you didn't plan ahead and you don't have extra, so there is that.
Yep. But it's a great, way to make a spool go,
Mhm.
because thread is not to get good thread and have a nice variety,
It's not cheap.
it's not an inexpensive thing to, invest in. So it's
Mhm.
a nice way to be able to spread what you do have, out to be able to use that, a little bit better.
It definitely
So,
is. Yep.
I had a sweater that was stupid long,
Yeah.
and I could only find the color that I needed
Mhm.
in this stupidly large spool, and I needed, of course,
4.
3
Yeah, 3 or
at
4.
minimum,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Oh, I can't buy all of those," and I was like, "Eh."
Mhm.
So I ran bobbins of them, and it worked great
Yeah.
because I didn't need a ton.
Mhm.
I mean, I still have most of that stupid spool left. So if I had had to buy 4 spools of it,
You'd die with
I
those.
would have yes, I would have died with it. You are absolutely right. So, if we look at this, you wanna explain your, concept of what you did for angling?
Oh, yeah. Super complicated here. Um, so I knew that the pillow itself was 16 inches. So, I didn't want the diagonals to be because it's a narrow space, I didn't want to draw a line diagonally from corner to corner because I wanted it to be a little bit more like diamond shaped versus square on point, I guess.
Yeah, mine are a little more square,
Um,
so this is a little more square.
yeah, and so what I did was I measured from the top of the fabric down 16 inches, and then I basically folded the fabric diagonally from that 16-inch mark up to the top corner of it, which is what gave me this very strange angle or this very extreme angle. Of course, you could just physically fold
Just
your
pick one,
fabric on any
right,
direction, but that was how I picked my angle because I figured, since that was gonna be the span, that would be a nice it would just be a nice angle for me to work with, and
right,
then I all I did was I pressed my first version in, and then I used the quilt guide to stitch on either side of those lines, basically alternating from sewing with the fabric up versus sewing with the fabric down. So by doing that, um, it allowed me to have like an extreme angle. But the first time I did it, I left the quilt guide where I had it with pin tucks, which was about an inch, and that definitely meant that I was
You were
stitching.
stitching a lot.
I stitched what seemed like forever. So I would definitely recommend it unless you don't mind it taking a little while and, then you can keep it there. But you might want it to be, an inch and a half or 2 inches. That will save you a little bit of time, because it definitely feels like even though these are not huge chunks of fabric, it definitely feels
It
like
when you're going criss and cross and over and over and over, it's a
it's
lot.
yeah,
This is gonna take you a hot second.
yeah, this is
No
probably the
matter how
longest
close,
part of the
this is
entire
definitely
project.
gonna take you time. And, if you want a heavier quilting look,
Mhm,
it's gonna take you more time,
yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that, just know that going in. So, I've got that line I have in, um, C2 and C3, so I've got, the marks on my foot here,
mhm,
and I am keeping that line between those 2. Does it matter?
no,
No, but that I want it to be a straight line, so whatever line I pick, I wanna stick to that, and I'm just gonna start sewing. Because I've rethreaded, I want to, start with the needles in the fabric
mhm,
again. Honestly, if you get in the habit of starting any chain or cover with your needles in the fabric, it's a good habit to get in, and then you don't run into, "Oh crap, I popped something because it
mhm.
didn't, work." This is that open toe. You can see that you've got a lot, better lines, to follow. They're actually red,
So if you
and
struggle with
you can
finding the
see,
lines.
those a little bit easier on there. Um, so we're just going to start sewing, and, I'm gonna attempt to keep that iron line. So you know that I didn't have, uh, that quilt guide at home, so I literally drew quilted lines. That took me a hot second,
Yep.
and then I went and sewed those, and then I flipped it upside down and then sewed, using my foot as a guide, I sewed from, a distance from that original stitch line. So that's how I accomplished it with no quilt guide. So did you, oh, wonder how much tension there was on that. Guess it's all right. Um, so we've got, um the double run here and then the looper on the backside. So if we are going to, um, make an adjustment, you figure out how close you want your stitches to be. It doesn't have to be an exact measurement by any stretch. You set your quilt guide up, and then you can flip if you want to flip right away. You're going to run the quilt guide on the previous stitch, and then that is going to be literally going back and forth.
And on the Triumph, we're really lucky because we do have like a slide speed control. I think for me, being pretty consistent with the speed that I stitch also helps the stitches look better
Yeah.
because and I found like you're kind of right in the middle too. Like some right around in the middle of the area was a good pace for me. I was able to keep the fabric pretty straight and keep stitching, but it looks so different from the needles to the decorative part of the chain. It's so much fun to just decorate that way.
So, I can go whatever way I want to go. If I, want another row with looper on top, then I can continue right next to that. And I can do a pattern or I can just go crazy. It doesn't
Yep,
doesn't matter what you're doing as long as um,
yep.
you've got your distance kind of in place.
And you could do like swirls or wavy
Absolutely.
lines, or because we talked about doing all kinds of different ways of doing this. Um, the reason we sort of selected this was because this was a duplicatable pattern that we could talk about versus if you're, you know, I'm not the greatest motion filter, so if I don't have a pattern to follow.
Right.
So this was an easy way of being able to find the pieces.
So, it's very functionable to be whatever you're a lot of fun
Yes, definitely, an
and,
absolute blast to be
whatever
able to
look
do
you
this.
want that to be. So you can just continue to make all of those, and then your crosshatch
Mhm,
can be, again, at whatever angle you want that to go to.
absolutely.
And then, for this particular piece, you would cut it in half and one would go on one, and
Mhm,
so you're making one piece, you're not having to do this all twice.
yes.
So,
I did mine twice because we hadn't written the pattern yet,
right.
and I didn't
So
have that big of
that's literally how you would do this. This can be used in so many things. It can
mhm,
be, you can basically decorate your own pieces of fabric.
mhm,
If you wanted to put a fusible on the back of something that's a little thin, if you're, worried about the strength of the fabric or not, you can certainly go that route
yeah,
and, give that, uh,
my flimsy watch moving over here is making me crazy.
just like flying everywhere.
It is.
I can hear it.
Hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to, uh, kind of, bring everybody up to speed, what we did so far is, um, Lisa did narrow cover hem. So we have
I just changed threads, but I've done
yes.
the same stitch, a narrow right for
Mhm.
both things. So we've done pin tucking and basically a decorative hooking, which we're doing in straight lines, but you can do it literally
Way.
however you want. If you wanna
Right.
just doodle, you can doodle, um,
Mhm.
or it can be a pattern, or it can be random, however you would like.
Absolutely. You could also, if you didn't want the 2 threads, we'll be doing a chain stitch in a bit, and you could, do
You could alternate that in and add in, if you
in
don't want
between
them to be
or
the same, you
mhm.
can absolutely change that up too.
Yep, so
Yep.
you've got lots of choices of things that you can do, and, what we have done on the Acclaim, which is the 4-thread serger, is we started with a 2-thread flat lock stitch, and we talked about alternating between, right sides together and wrong sides together. Most of the time on the flat lock stitch, you would sew them with, right sides together, and then you open it up, and it's your needle thread that gives you the beautiful, ladder type stitch. And then from that 2-thread, I went to our 3-thread rolled hem, and we stitched the 2 edges of our ruffled piece. You will be basically doing that 2 times if you want to make this pillow, because we've got both a left and a right section. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create some piping, and we're going to do that with a 3-thread wide. You could also do this with a 4-thread wide, but I already have 3 threads in there, and there really isn't a specific reason to change this. So, I'm gonna go ahead and just, make some adjustments in the stitches, in our stitch settings so that we can go ahead and do this. We're gonna change from a rolled hem to a 3-thread wide. I'm gonna move the needle from the right back to the left because we like to do that.
Yep,
And then we'll go ahead and do that. So I'm going to where's my button? There we go. So many choices. That is your machine,
that is me.
and here is this one. Yay! Okay, so I'm gonna go wide again here. Sorry, we need like a camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've already got 3 threads in. The only thing that I really need to do is I need my needle. So I'm gonna show you all a little trick. I am not going to actually unthread everything. I am going to cheat. I'm gonna keep my needle threaded. I'm gonna move it from the left needle to the right needle, so everything is still threaded in there. Popping it out of the right, sliding it over to the left. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do on the top of the machine is you need to move the thread from one tension place to the other. So I'm gonna grab the thread at the top, and I'm going to basically create a loop. I'm gonna pop another line through the top, and then I'm gonna pull it out, and then I'm gonna just slide it in right next to it. So I don't have to rethread the machine, and we'll flap through the a picture of the triumph in a little bit, and we'll show you a backside view of what I actually just did so that you can see that. So I'm not going to need to basically do any unthreading. I'm just gonna need to then move my tension dials. So I'm going to be doing it thread wide. So I'm going back to the letter A in my stitch guide. I'm going to adjust my rolled hem back to a standard stitch. I'm gonna go to about a 3, and then I'm gonna take my stitch width dial, and I'm gonna go to the widest. I always recommend when you're doing piping to go to the widest cutting because it will give you a little bit wider piece of piping that's a little bit easier to sort of clip
To
in,
work later
a
on.
little easier to work with later on. So, that is all I have to do, in order to make my piping besides change my foot. So, I'm gonna take this guy off. He's a little dusty, and I'm going to put the piping foot on. So this is the P5 foot, and it has a groove on the bottom, and I'm just going to place that on the machine. Do, do, do. Okay. Oh, you know what? I have the wrong piping foot. Do we have a regular one over here?
Um,
Both of ours are
for the wrong machine.
for the wrong machine. Yep.
Hang on.
When you have a combo machine, this foot will not work. So we're going to go check and see if we have the right foot to attach to this machine because that will make a lot more sense. And we
That's
have
those.
our cording or our
They asking
piping.
about up.
The size that we like to use for this is 5/32, which is nice size. So we're going to use that. Does anybody have any questions so far? You guys have been pretty quiet up to this point. We're going to be making our piping. Here is a sample of the piping sewn inside. So this is from the pink version. It gets all nicely tucked inside there. Did we have one?
We have a 3.
Yay!
We don't have a 5.
We'll try that. Okay.
Yeah, didn't think of that.
All right. So we are placing that on the machine. Okay, there we go. Then we are going to take our, I think the hardest part about making piping on a serger is sometimes I feel like I need another hand just to hold everything together for me.
Yeah, once you get started, it's not so bad. But that first couple of
Yep.
clicks in it.
So this is what I like to do. I just have the fabric, let me get into the camera here, wrapped around, and I like to have a little bit of a long tail thread at first. I like to have the tail thread out because I'm gonna place this underneath the foot, and then I'm gonna place this up against my blade. So the piping goes under first, then I set that down, and then the fabric goes in front here. And I don't usually press this or do anything special with this. I usually just hold it. I typically just have a slightly larger chunk because I'd rather cut off a little extra fabric and have a little bit more to hold on to
Same.
than otherwise. All right.
I like to hold my finger, like, next to the cording.
Mhm.
Is that what you do?
Yep. I actually usually use my stiletto and ride that kind of
Mhm.
in this area right here. You don't wanna put your finger
No,
too
not
close
too
back
close to the
there.
blade, in front of the foot.
Yep. And sometimes it gets a little
Wonky.
wonky, and that's kind of the other reason why I like to have just a little extra. But this just makes the best piping ever. It's it's just perfect. Zoom out a little. And you've got that extra length there, so it's gonna be really easy for you to clip that inside. It's so
Gonna fit
tight.
perfectly in the seam.
It's perfect. It just is fantastic. This is I can just make piping for days, and it's just so much fun. So you will need to do, um, 1 long strip of piping so that you can then essentially cut it in half, so you can do both sections.
Thread everywhere.
Yep, it kinda just gets everywhere, doesn't it?
It surely does.
One of the things that I like to do when I get to the end is I like to, sew through the edge of that cording piece. I do that because now it's a lot harder for me to accidentally pull that cording out if
Out.
I'm really, really tugging
I've
on
had
this.
that happen, so that's the thing.
Yep, so I just kinda squish the corner and make sure that I sort of sew through that. And, here we have our piping, and it's perfect, it's beautiful. You wanna show it underneath
I can do
the
that.
fancy camera with the better lighting. Looks so much better on that camera. So there we have our fun, fancy, piping. Now I did have, a variegated thread in there. You are not gonna see any of that later on, so there's no good reason to do that, except for I just already had that in there, so there was no point in me changing anything.
So there's
Um,
the variegated.
but you could
You're like, "I
definitely
don't see that."
yeah,
On the other side.
you could definitely have traditional, serger thread in at this point. It does not need to be fancy, fancy for anything.
Nope.
So, now we have finished all of the standard techniques on the 4th thread. So we really have, gathers, ruffles, puffing, um,
And sewing.
and sewing left to do, and, so we're gonna go ahead and go back to, Lisa's machine over here, and, we're gonna do some do I have all of them? Yes, I do. Sorry, it's hard to get good help over here.
Stealing my
I
tool.
stole your
Stealing my tool.
yep,
Alright, so, we are going to need to switch to a chain stitch, which means I only need, 1 needle, and I'm going to do center needle.
mhm,
Generally, when I just do one, that's usually what I do. It just depends on what I'm doing, but
um,
what ones do you do? I see
So
a look on your face, it's not what you do,
I
so
typically, because I'm trying to get kind of a narrow stitch, I usually use the right needle because it's closer to the edge of the foot, which makes my stitch width of this fabric a little bit narrower because I don't have anything to trim on.
mm,
Um, but that is the only reason that I go to that because I feel like if I stitch on the edge of the fabric, this is like bigger than a 5/8 seam with the needle in the center or the left position. So that is the only reason that I might pick the right needle versus the center needle. No other reason than it makes like a teeny tiny eighth of an inch less seam allowance, because it will honestly stitch no matter what. And if you aren't using the edge of the foot as your guide, like if you're using
yep,
something else, we have fabric guides, then this doesn't make any sense at all.
right,
I sometimes am just lazy and I just pick the edge of the foot because I can. Now, you also have a couple of different feet choices. You could use the narrow cover
yeah,
hem foot. And if you use the narrow cover hem foot, then definitely the center needle position to the edge of that foot is only like a little bit, it's just a smidge bigger than a quarter of an inch. So you would get a much narrower seam allowance than if you have this big multi-function foot controller. So if you
right,
only have one foot on your machine, um,
and when I'm at home, I generally use the cover stitch
yes,
foot when I'm stitching with this,
yep, and that
so,
will definitely make a big difference. If you put your needle position in the center here, and you're looking around, you definitely have to pay attention because it's going to be a really large stitch. And I did see some of the thread when I went to sew it
mm,
into my other piece. So we are doing gathers now. So while we don't necessarily need to do anything special with anything, we do need to make a small adjustment in our differential.
yep,
So we need to bump that up to the number 2. And I doubt our thing isn't going to tell us anything. It will
no,
tell us to adjust
it's
our,
just
yep, the cover hem and needle tension.
is that what it's saying?
Hmm.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, hey there. Hi, I was watching you.
There we go. So
Alright,
if you don't get your differential up to 2, you probably are not going to get the machine to gather. Um, so we have the standard foot on. You also have like a ruffling foot, a shearing foot. You can adjust your stitch length a little bit. I typically, um, I only make adjustments on my stitch length or change the foot if I don't get the gather that I want.
yeah, um, you've stitched with the shearing foot. Do you find that it gives you more?
It definitely gives me a little bit more, than what I get without it, but it also depends on the fabric that I'm using. So
Fair.
we didn't starch this fabric at all, so it's actually gonna gather pretty well. If you starch your fabric, you might not get as much gather because the fabric is a little bit stiffer.
So, what, differential feed is going to adjust is the 2 sets of feed dogs are going to be stitching at different speeds, which is what will cause the fabric to gather on its own.
Mhm,
So, I'm not going to be doing anything different. I'm gonna let the machine do all the work for me,
mhm.
and, I'm going to stitch down both sides of this fabric because this is puffing.
Yes,
So, not a ruffle, we're gonna puff.
we're gonna puff
We're gonna puff, which
and
normally
huff
we wouldn't.
and blow the house down.
So here we go. I have center in. I have adjusted my tension up to about almost to 3. I'm in a little over 2.5, and I haven't touched my needle tension. So that's where I'm at.
Yep.
All right, here we go. And this foot pedal is like super far away. And I'm going to attempt to keep my fabric all in the same position so that my stitch stays.
I think one side is easier than the other.
Yeah, agreed.
Once you get to the other side, I feel like I'm on like it's all over the place. But speed is definitely a benefit here, slowing down a little bit when you get to that other side.
Yep. And there is one side. So you can see that is most definitely gathered.
Mhm.
So very pretty. and we're just gonna flip that around and do that all over again. So
This is such a quick technique.
I know, and it makes a drastic difference.
Yep.
So this time I've got a little bit more of a fan thing going on, so I'm gonna have my fabric coming in at a curve. So, I'm gonna stitch a little slower than I did the last time just because I'm gonna have to be playing with my fabric a little bit to make sure that I am getting it in where I want it to go. There we go. Zoom, zoom, zoom. And we have a piece that has 2 sides that has created a book.
Mhm. Super cute.
So that's it.
Yeah. Um, in order to kinda get your poofs where you need them to be, you kinda just hug.
So now we're
Yep, and it kinda sorta seats them next to each other.
evens out your hey, that side didn't curve the same side as the other,
Mhm.
and it kinda evens out your oops.
Yep,
That side curved where it wasn't supposed to curve, but
exactly.
this will even that out, so now you can see we have a, um, complete ruffle everywhere there.
Yep.
What we are looking for is that beautiful piece, for the center of our pillow, and, it is going to almost, shrink double.
Yep.
So you're gonna wanna start with approximately twice as much, as you started what you're gonna want to finish with.
Mhm.
So, um, basically a width of the fabric is what we add in
Mhm.
there.
This is great, so we gotta put this up here. So Mindy says, "2-bag Babylock Sergers are so reliable. I have it imagined and it's in great shape, so no way I can convince my husband that I need one of these. Great." And I love how it always changes sergers to servers, no matter how many times you try. But you could maybe convince him
Trade
to
it.
get you, trade it in or to get, a Euphoria, because then you would be able to do these fun, great stitches with all of this great width, and that would complement your victory very nicely. So, the next thing that we're going to do is we need to create the gathers or the ruffled part for the center part of our rolled hem fabrics. So same thing.
So, same thing that we did before. This time, instead of trying to stay on the edges of the fabric, I'm gonna literally want to stay as close to the middle as I can all the way down.
I pressed my piece in half to help me find the center.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so if you're looking, we all know I didn't draw anything. Um,
I didn't do either one of those things.
yes,
Yeah, that's about the middle.
yep,
Um,
absolutely.
so we're gonna just literally go right down the middle of the, entire thing here. We are still on all of the same settings, so nothing has changed.
Yes.
The secret is using a chain stitch,
Yeah,
quite
definitely.
frankly.
It gathers a ton more when you have a single needle chain.
So the other thing, is it sounds silly, but kind of not letting your fabric shoot out the back,
Mhm.
kind of not bunching it in the back kind of helps it to, uh
Yeah, and literally you cannot put any pressure on the front. You can guide the fabric, but you don't
right.
want there to be
Yeah,
any, yeah,
don't
any
pull
tension there.
or anything on it up here. You have to let it grab and
Mhm.
do its thing. So,
But it
as I'm
definitely
sitting on this
it definitely gathers more in chain.
so, let it do its thing, and, like I said, it's twisting all over the place.
Mhm.
Um, this is really narrow piece. What did you do? I'm blaming Sarah.
Totally my
Doo-doo-doo.
fault.
Really twisting. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
And we're not using any special foot here.
This
We
is
literally
literally the
just
regular general purpose foot.
Yeah.
So you can see this is just a twisted mass of fun.
Yep.
So what I did though, which was really funny, I forgot to take the when I would sew it on,
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't take the differential feet off. So make sure that you remember when you go to sew it on to take the differential feet off the two and
Mhm.
put it back down so that your attaching stitch is going to be straight. 'Cause
Yep.
then you'll end up gathering the bottom piece that
Absolutely.
you don't want to be gathered. So this is absolutely beautiful. You can attach that then to your end piece. So this will be at the end of our pillow
Mhm.
or table runner.
Yep.
So absolutely beautiful. And that is all of the techniques that we were going to cover.
Yes. Yes.
We have
So
talked pin tucks. We have talked decorative stitching with cover hem.
Yep.
We have talked gathering and puffing, which is just gathering a bunch. And we have talked rolled hem. We have
Yes.
talked piping. What else have we talked about?
3 thread, 4 thread, flat lock,
Um,
narrow chain,
I mean, almost everything
almost
like
everything.
regular
Yeah.
stitches plus bonus stitches.
Mhm.
And then you can use your chain stitch as your sewing stitch.
Yep.
You could use a 3 thread or a 4 thread as your sewing stitch to piece everything together. Or you could take these pieces to your sewing machine. It doesn't really matter.
Mm-mm.
You know, the pieces will all, go together. Um, we figured a rough, that rough quarter inch seam roughly, but
Yep. Yeah.
and the pieces, the pattern will fit the 16 by 38 pillow form.
Yeah.
So
We kind of built it around, because we do so much Tinkerbell around here, so we have those Tinkerbell bench pillows that are
Right.
super popular, and we thought, "Wouldn't this be great to have, just
a
something that a
non-seasonal
non-seasonal piece that you can kinda keep out in between decorating with your seasonals?"
to have everything, the more generic,
Yeah.
beautiful,
You could
adorable,
definitely make this seasonal though,
absolutely,
for
but
sure.
kind of have it just the generic
Yeah.
and all time.
All the time, yes. So, everything that we did today, we did, like Lisa said, on both the combo machine and the 4 thread. So, you could do all of the techniques that we did on our serger, you could do on a regular sewing machine, if you didn't have that version or vice versa. So you could certainly still make this pillow if you don't have the super fancy machine.
Absolutely.
But,
Gathering, it's
yeah,
just a different type
just
of
different
gathering,
technique.
but you could still do that. Decorative stitches versus the cover hem and looper stitch, you could use, a different type of decorative stitch and do quilting with that.
Yep.
So everything would still be possible. It's just how fun that a machine can do all of those things
Yeah.
and have all of that fun in one place.
Right, and it's your serger. So, I mean, the thing that you usually create your garments with, can do all of these fun stitches that maybe you didn't know about. So, just a reminder that we do have, a bunch of sales. I know it'll shock you to know that, but we have those great prices, um, for the Victory,
Yep.
the, um, Acclaim,
Which is what Sarah was sewing on.
yep,
The
the
Euphoria
Euphoria,
is the cover hem only. So if you already have like that Imagine and you want to expand into the cover hem stitches, great price. Again, all of them have gone down, which is phenomenal.
mhm,
And then the Accolade, which is the smaller version of the Triumph,
yep,
which is what I was sewing on.
yep,
And then, of course, the Triumph itself.
yes.
So
And, for everything but the Triumph, you can get a machine only, and then you can add, the great bundle price to that to give you that extended warranty, the feet, and the foot kit. But our Triumph bundle is a package
it's the
deal,
package.
and really fantastic deal. We we typically sell the machine for
$6,000.
$6,000 just by itself without all of these things. So we have added everything, and
And
then
the price is
and
still under what
yeah,
we normally sell the machine
yeah.
for.
So we tried to put down some really fantastic deals. There is some extended financing coming out from Babylock next week on the Triumph. That would be the only one I think that would fall. I think no, it's $4,000. So Accolade or the Triumph. The
For the
60 month.
real extended, yeah,
Mhm.
the 60 months.
But
It's based on how much you're spending.
yep, yep.
So
So you have to have a minimum of $4,000 to do that.
the 26th and the 27th, I think, are the dates for those.
Yeah, just a couple of days. If you decide that you want one of these and you need extended financing, give us a call. We can put a deposit down on the machine to hold it for you, especially if you're talking about the Triumph, because the Triumph bundle is only good
For the
as
ones we have in stock.
yes. We will not have this bundle pricing when we repurchase our next round of Triumph. So this was a special buy. We just have a few left. So if you're thinking about one of those and you want that kit, definitely give us a call, because when they are gone, that
So is that
package is gone. Yes. So we can't duplicate that package. But the rest of the machines, I'm assuming we don't know if Babylock is going to go back up on their pricing afterwards. I feel like they're going to stick around for a
I think
little
it'll stick
while.
around for at least a while. They wouldn't have it would have just been sale prices versus they actually came out with changed prices. So I think
Yes,
it'll stick around for at least a little while,
but
but,
our bundle packages will not.
that is correct. So,
Um,
fantastic numbers, lowest in years. So it is definitely the time to buy for sure.
yep.
And as always, we come with every machine we sell. So we are here to help you learn. This has been a ton of fun. And every year I laugh at myself because every year I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot how much fun this is to play with.
Mhm.
And then I play for a month or so and then I forget again.
Yep.
And then here we are. But this particular project has been a lot of fun. I used the casserole carrier that we made last year,
Mhm.
and I've used it a lot. And people are always like, "That's so cute. Where'd you get it?" I'm like, "I made it." But you forget,
Yep.
what you're able to do when you don't use those pieces all of the time. So
Absolutely.
it's yep.
But let's see. So a couple questions coming in. Do the feet from the Ovation and Triumph fit the Euphoria? Yes and no.
The ones that are the cover hem feet
Yep.
will fit that. Yes.
Yes. The so because that one doesn't have it doesn't have the cutting area on the side of it, there are some feet we've basically put all of the feet on there, and while technically they fit on there, they are definitely coming out with um Euphoria only feet that are definitely made for that. And the 10-foot kit um, is a grouping of feet that is specifically for the Euphoria. So they are definitely building a lot of new feet on that new package. They had we had a cover hem before. I just don't think it was as popular. So
No, this one is definitely a cut above, no
mhm,
question. They stepped up the game on this machine. It's a wonderful cover hem only machine.
yep.
Um, they did a great job with it.
Mhm, mhm. All right. Well, if anybody else has any questions, now is a good time to pop them up. If we don't see anything, we'll take off. We still have fabric bundles available, and the pattern is still available. So you can get a bundle or get a pattern only.
Yep.
And we still have lots of sergers.
And
So
the fabric kits do come with thread to play with.
yes,
So
an assortment of
an
thread.
assortment of threads that you can use, some variegated and
Hmm.
some puff thread for
Yep,
those roll hems and some
absolutely.
poly yarn. And yeah, so we had a lot
Lots
of
of fun
fun
stuff.
putting all of the pieces together.
Mhm.
And I think you'll have a lot of fun making it. So
Yep, and you can, watch this again.
yep.
This the part you mentioned about something to add to the ovation. Oh, we had, 2 things that you can add to the ovation. The foot kit, the other thing is you can replace the little, the back piece here. So let me,
So the
uh,
cover hem,
slide the camera down here.
that guy right there, and it's about 20
$20-ish.
$20-ish, plus or minus a couple dollars. I can't remember exactly. But this attaches by this screw right here, and they drastically improved this piece. So it comes on and off super easy and totally worth it. If you have an ovation, you can buy just this little silver metal piece there and take yours off, put that one on, and you will no longer grumble every time you are threading for cover hem. It's just so fantastic. So I don't know if he has that part in stock. I know we've had it off and on. I'd have to check, but
I feel like that's one of those things he's keeping in stock now because it's been a pretty
it
routine.
has been. But again,
Yeah.
if somebody ordered take the last one and he didn't refill or not, I don't know. So we'd have to check, but we can get it. So
And he can definitely replace it for you on your
absolutely,
routine maintenance.
if you would like it replaced, if you're bringing it in for a cleaner, cleaning,
Mhm.
we can certainly do that for you while it's here. But it's also very easy to do on your own.
Yep, absolutely.
And there is the second item was the 7-foot kit. If you have the 22-foot kit that you had got with the ovation, there is a 7-foot kit that jumps basically all of the feet that have been added into the Triumph kit. If you are interested in that, you would also need to purchase a new table. That table has 4 screw holes instead of just the 2 that are on the ovation. So that looks like this guy. So the ovation only has 2. You need all 4 for some of those attachment pieces. So if you are thinking that you want to get the 7-foot kit, you don't want to get a 7-foot kit without purchasing a new table because you won't be able to use most of what's in that 7-foot kit without the upgraded piece there. God bless.
Sorry.
Oh, so
Right.
yes, please give us a call.
Yeah.
And so once you have all of your pieces, then you can just sew them together. Again, 3 or 4 thread on a regular serger or a chain stitch on a cover hem or a sewing machine, whatever you would prefer. And then you have a beautiful pillow.
Yes.
A la
Lots of
SNL. A
fun.
la SNL.
A la SNL. Yes. All right. Oh, look, I had our names wrong.
Well,
So hard to get good.
hi, I'm Lisa.
I'm Sarah. Oh, nice of me to notice that like 2
At
hours
the end
ago.
of the
Right.
day, yes.
Right. All right, guys. Well, it's been lots of fun. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have questions or would like to buy a serger, please give us
Give
a
us a buzz. We're
call.
happy to answer any questions and help you learn how to use it.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye,
All
guys.
right. Oh, I gotta find the right button. Ah.
See you
Bye.
next time. Bye-bye.